The fire crackled, casting dancing shadows around the circle of new rangers. The night air was cool, filled with the rustling of leaves and the distant calls of nocturnal creatures. The faces of the new recruits reflected a mix of anticipation and unease, their wide eyes fixed on me. I leaned forward, the flickering flames casting eerie shadows across my face. "Tonight, we need to discuss Rule 10, I began, my voice low and steady. Should you find a lone teddy bear sitting in the middle of a trail, do not touch it. It is said to be possessed by the spirit of a child who met a gruesome end in this forest, and those who disturb it will suffer the same fate." It was a crisp autumn day, I started, my mind drifting back to that unforgettable patrol. I was making my way through the heart of whispering pines. The forest was alive with the colors of fall, golden leaves, a clear blue sky, and the earthy scent of the woods. Everything seemed normal until I stumbled upon it. I paused, letting the tension build. There, right in the middle of the trail, was a teddy bear, I continued, my voice dropping to a whisper. It was sitting upright, as if placed there deliberately. Its fur was worn, its button eyes staring blankly ahead. There was something unsettling about it, something that sent a shiver down my spine. I approached cautiously, my curiosity battling with a growing sense of dread, I said. The bear looked old, its seams frayed, and it had an air of abandonment. But it also felt wrong, as if it didn't belong there. I remembered the warnings from the elder rangers, the stories they told about the cursed teddy bear. I took a deep breath, the memory of that day still vivid. Years ago, a young child had gone missing in this very forest, I explained. The search went on for weeks, but the child was never found. Eventually, the searchers came across a teddy bear, much like the one I saw. The legend says that the child's spirit became bound to the bear, forever cursed to haunt the trails of whispering pines. I could feel the weight of the legend pressing down on me, I continued. Every instinct screamed at me to leave it alone, but a part of me wanted to pick it up, to examine it closer. That's when I felt it. The air around me grew colder, the forest fell silent, and I had the distinct feeling that I was being watched. I leaned forward, my voice tense. I knew I had to get out of there. I backed away slowly, never taking my eyes off the bear, and then I turned and walked away as fast as I could without running. The sense of unease followed me all the way back to the ranger station. That night, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had narrowly escaped something terrible, I said, my voice trembling slightly. I realized then the true danger of the teddy bear. It's not just a toy, it's a trap. A cursed object that lures the curious and the unwary to their doom. Remember Rule 10, I said firmly. If you ever come across a lone teddy bear on the trail, do not touch it. Turn around and leave immediately. Your life depends on it. The fire crackled softly, the night growing darker around us. The rangers nodded solemnly, their expressions resolute. They understood now the deadly nature of the cursed teddy bear and the importance of following the rules. The fire crackled softly, the shadows it cast growing longer and darker. The new rangers sat in a tense silence, the story of the cursed teddy bear still fresh in their minds. I could see the fear and determination in their eyes as they absorbed the gravity of Rule 10. But they needed to understand just how real and dangerous the threat was. So I began another tale, one that would drive the lesson home. Let me tell you about Mark, I began, my voice steady and somber. He was a fellow ranger, one of the best we had. Always pushing boundaries, never one to believe in superstitions. He thought the legends were just stories to scare new recruits. But he learned the hard way just how real they were. Mark was on patrol one summer afternoon. The forest was alive with the sounds of birds and the rustling of leaves. He was following a trail deep into Whispering Pines when he saw it. A lone teddy bear, sitting upright in the middle of the path. I paused, letting the image settle in their minds. Unlike me, Mark didn't hesitate. He walked right up to the bear, picked it up, and examined it. He thought it was just a lost toy, maybe dropped by a careless camper. But the moment he touched it, everything changed. Mark described feeling an immediate chill. The air around him grew cold, and the forest fell eerily silent. He felt a sense of dread wash over him, but he brushed it off, convinced it was just his imagination. I took a deep breath, the memory of Mark's fate still vivid in my mind. Over the next few days, Mark began to experience strange and unsettling events. He heard whispers in the night, saw shadows moving at the edge of his vision, and had vivid nightmares of a young child calling out to him. He tried to ignore it, to rationalize it, but the occurrences only grew more frequent and more disturbing. Mark wrote about it in his journal. He described how he felt watched, how the shadows seemed to follow him, and how the whispers grew louder, turning into cries and then screams. He started to lose sleep, his health deteriorated, and his mind began to unravel. I paused, letting the tension build. Then, one night, Mark disappeared. He was on a night patrol, and he never returned. We searched for days, but all we found were his belongings scattered around the spot where he had first found the teddy bear. There was no sign of a struggle, no tracks leading away, just the eerie silence of the forest. The fire crackled loudly, the sound startling the rangers. Mark's disappearance shook us all. It was a grim reminder that the legends were true, that the cursed teddy bear was real, and that it held a deadly power over those who disturbed it. Remember Rule 10. If you ever come across a lone teddy bear on the trail, do not touch it. Turn around and leave immediately. Your life depends on it. The fire burned low, casting long, eerie shadows that danced around us. The new rangers sat in tense silence, their faces illuminated by the dim glow. They had heard the stories of the cursed teddy bear, but there was one final tale they needed to hear. One that would solidify their understanding and respect for Rule 10. Mark's disappearance hit us all hard. It wasn't just about losing a colleague. It was the realization that the legends were far more real and dangerous than any of us had ever imagined. The rangers exchanged uneasy glances, the firelight flickering in their wide eyes. After Mark vanished, we organized extensive search parties. We combed every inch of the forest, hoping against hope to find some trace of him. But Whispering Pines is vast and unforgiving, and it seemed determined to keep its secrets. During one of those searches, we found Mark's journal. It was hidden under a pile of leaves, almost as if someone, or something, had placed it there for us to find. The entries were frantic, disjointed, but they gave us a glimpse into the nightmare he experienced after touching the teddy bear. Mark wrote about the whispers. They started as faint murmurs, just at the edge of his hearing. But as the days went on, they grew louder and more insistent. He described hearing a child's voice, pleading, crying, and then screaming. It was as if the spirit of the child was reaching out to him, dragging him deeper into the curse. His last entries were the most chilling. Mark wrote about seeing a shadowy figure, a small child, following him wherever he went. He felt a constant, oppressive presence, as if the spirit was always watching, always waiting. His final entry was barely legible, written in a shaky hand. "It's coming for me. I can't escape." We never found Mark, but his journal was a grim reminder of the deadly power of the cursed teddy bear. It wasn't just a toy. It was a trap, a vessel for a restless spirit seeking revenge. After Mark's disappearance, the entire ranger team became more vigilant. We realized that the legends of Whispering Pines were not just stories. They were warnings, and those warnings had to be heeded if we were to survive the dangers lurking in the forest. We documented everything we knew about the cursed teddy bear. We spread the word, made sure every ranger understood the importance of Rule 10, and we made a promise to ourselves and to those who had vanished. We would never let curiosity or skepticism put us in harm's way again. Remember the stories I've told you tonight. They are not just tales to scare you. They are the experiences of those who came before you. Respect the rules, stay vigilant, and never underestimate the dangers that lurk in whispering pines. The firelight flickered, casting eerie shadows that danced around us. The forest was silent, as if holding its breath, the weight of the tales settling heavily over the camp. As the fire burned down to embers, an unsettling stillness settled over the group. The night was filled with the whispers of the wind, the rustling of leaves, and the ever-present sense of being watched. The rangers knew now that the forest held secrets best left undisturbed, and that the cursed teddy bear was one of its most insidious traps. The fire crackled softly, the shadows growing darker. The rangers sat in silence, their minds filled with the haunting stories of whispering pines. The forest watched, waiting, its dark secrets hidden deep within its ancient shadows. And somewhere in the depths of whispering pines, a lone teddy bear sat on a trail, waiting for its next victim.